Yeah, I was like, it's actually the best part of the music. Like you can see they like learn as they've gone. Yeah, they finally opened right there. Yeah. Nobody yeah, saw that. And you only I mean, they have like an SAT in there, they've got like they have way more history, and we're going to set up like a story and get you guys because I didn't realize we don't want to guide it instead of being like, I have no that is the M40 that was carried by the 17 that got killed and got captured. It was used against by like that famous Aljuba sniper guy. And then we killed nobody else mentioned. I don't know who else they was. How else did they put it in? Yeah. Yeah. Wait, you're sorry about that, huh?
Welcome to your fattest non-cat freaking uniform. Look at him. Very fucking proud, yeah. Like, you're live. I am.
Other than maybe the yeah, but videos games. Okay. Okay. Oh, she. What's this? As far as what's I'm already good, so we can't get to the math. Is there no explain? Oh, this is gonna be good. This is gonna be really good. Yeah, he's got here. Yeah, I guess mine's the easiest one. I just put it on. I'm not gonna say 84 times a second. Then I have to change it. They were Texas, yeah, I think I might have to go down to the they might not know that they're. I mean, it is. They're running it. The person you're questioning. You go back in and you're like, like I'm
Oh, thank you.
Good. How are you? Major Harp. Nice to meet you. I was at the. Oh, yeah. You look different. No face paint. I guess I was like, she's really gonna make them put face paint right now. Like, she's like, I'm gonna plug in face paint. I think I'll pass. I think I know what I'm doing. That's right. Looks good, man. Thank you. Are you our judge? I'm not the judge. No. So there's another. So there's actually a real marine lawyer. Yeah. Great. Okay. Yeah. Maybe that's the judge. Good seeing you guys. What's your role in this? Defense. Okay. Yeah. Awesome. You guys prepping your case right now? Oh, okay. Last minute prep. Yeah. Tell me that one. That's why. Stationary, we object and judge. Use that. That would be my most capable.
Not anything.
Like if we were Like this is like Fifth Amendment stuff. If you're pleading the Fifth,
Swing is a tall. Swing. That's because he has the same name as somebody else. Yeah, I know. He's the one who
they also have saw in one of their videos said it has a line type out of how Joyce is, like how he keeps that literally comes in from
that's not usually.
Yeah, poison's not relevant.
Gunny.
They have to bring that in by interviewing NCIS. They'd have to bring this. Yeah, if you want to, at least in my knowledge, if you want to bring in evidence like this, you need to bring in the person that has that evidence. You're
Just make sure that we were the ones that were.
I read through the law case I was given.
we don't call you. Look in
At Jack.
Don't be nervous. You said no.
I'll ask. I just have you go up those stairs, straight out the door, just like to your right.
Don't be nervous now. Your life is in their hands.
I just have to sit there.
Your life is in their hands. You're going to it might be a month trial, but you are going to jail if you were guilty. The consequences are real.
Lieutenant Summers.
Oh shit.
Oh, there's it. Lieutenant Summers, we have a question for you. So we caught through the grapevine that your team is trying to like introduce like deposition evidence. We have some general legal questions. We weren't prepared. Okay. They're trying to bring in evidence. They're not have to be witnesses. Questioning the person directly involved. Like, is there not some like hearsay objections?
You guys are right. That is a swearing statement. And that person's talking about so it's not.
But if they were to bring it to you,
I think actually,
find the ground. They're trying to bring in this probably like search it. Like we weren't really prepped to watch that. I don't think they can bring that in. We're not right? Like I lose pages like They just started it right there. Like, you know what? Still remember stuff. Just like don't even answer anything. Like sitting there.
Come here, no, I like further explain. Yeah.
I've seen that on shows before.
Same with
Hey, I got to everybody back there. Thank you guys so much for coming. I'm just going to move people around real fast. If that's right. So if you are a witness and you're expected to take a stand, I need you to come sit on the front row over here. So there's lots of walking around. If you are a jury member, tag me. I'm going to need you to head into the jury box. And all the rest of you, if you guys can pull all the way down the field, these first 4 rows first seat, that'd be awesome. Thank you very much. I think it's out there. Hey, what's that? Hop in the jury box. That's Sergeant. He says right up there. Captain Valenti. Captain Valenti.
Yeah, we can strategize because there's a break.
Either bring up the opening or bring up. I know I can't do it. With the other one. Okay. To get like the win. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lieutenant Summers, Second Lieutenant Summers. I'm a 2024 graduate of the school. Just going to get us all real quick. First, I'd like to thank Penn State Dickinson Law for hosting us. Thank Dickinson Law for welcoming us here. I'd also like to thank Dean Conway for being here. We have a little bit of pickup this morning, you see, this incident and willing to step in and she needs, so I'd like to thank you for that. I'd like to thank Katie, she's here, for being there, she was looking at helping save the summer. And finally, and definitely not least, I want to introduce Captain Derek, he's the officer selection officer for Durham Station, Harrisburg, or Harrisburg. Captain Derek is actually responsible for getting me to the Marine Corps, and that's the way he's guided and mentored me, and learning how to be an officer and basic officership. I feel up here in so, without further ado, Captain.
Hey, I'm gonna go to no microphone, right, if you don't mind. My comments will be fast. All the thanks that Lieutenant Summers said, we really do mean. And this is a cool event because I think judge advocates are two things for the Marine Corps, okay? They have a really solemn duty. And that first duty is to ensure that the highest quality Marines continue to serve in our Marine Corps, right? And if someone's not upholding what we expect of a U.S. Marine, judge advocates have the duty to remove them from the Corps. That's extremely important to our Marine Corps, okay? We are trusted to go all these different places, to make all these different decisions with our nation's greatest asset, which is our youth, right? The second duty that they have that's also extremely important is to make sure that the government doesn't trample on young Marines, right? Young Marines make mistakes. They can go to non-judicial punishment where a commander can punish them. They can choose to go to court-martial to defend themselves. And sometimes we need to make sure that the 18-year-old that makes the same mistakes as a regular college 18-year-old doesn't actually get trampled on by the government, right? So the guys in the fence, they take that as a real commitment to make sure that we are protecting the Marines the way we said we will. And the guys in the prosecution have the real responsibility of making sure that the Marine Corps remains true to what we promised the nation we will be. Does that make sense, everybody? Awesome. That's all my remarks. All rise, I think is the line. All rise.
Everyone, please be seated.
All right, this court martial is called to order in the case of the United States v. Corporal Winters. The accused and the following persons detailed to this court martial are present: myself, Major Jeffrey Palmer, the military judge; Nicole Bassa, Jessica Lacey, Benjamin Davids, Nicholas Seimer, Rachel Liu, trial counsels; Pietro Porco, Chinedu Okiki, Liv Swan, Celeste Hall, defense counsel. Are you Corporal Winters, the accused in this case?
Yes, Your Honor.
And I appreciate your military courtesy for standing, but you can remain seated unless directed to stand. Defense counsel, is your client attired in the appropriate uniform with all the awards and decorations to which he is entitled?
Yes, Your Honor. The accused is entitled to wear the National Defense Service Medal, the Navy Arctic Service Ribbon, the Navy and Marine Corps Achievement Medal, the Marine Corps Good Conduct Medal, and the Global War on Terrorism Service Medal.
Corporal Winters, you have the right to be represented by detailed military defense counsel. They are lawyers certified by the Judge Advocate General as qualified to act as your defense counsel. They are members of the Marine Corps Defense Services Organization. Their services are provided at no expense to. All right, the accused will now be arraigned. Trial counsel, can you represent this case?
The charge is murder, violation of Uniform Code of Military Justice, Article 118.
Accused, continue, sorry.
That's all, Your Honor.
Okay. Accused and defense counsel, please rise. Corporal, how do you plead this case?
The accused, Corporal Winters, pleads as follows to the charge in its sole specification, not guilty.
Thank you. Do you wish to be tried by a panel of members with up to 1/3 enlisted representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Your request is granted. Bailiff, call the court members.
Board members,
The members of the court have now joined us. Present with us now are Captain Quentin Hare, Captain Alexander Valenti, Captain Alicia Cagney, Second Lieutenant Mark Larson, Gunnery Sergeant Cameron McMillan, Staff Sergeant Malcolm Cleckley, Staff Sergeant Brandon Franklin, Staff Sergeant Matthew Orozco, Staff Sergeant Jacoby Truss, and Staff Sergeant Joe Warner, court members. The members of the court will now be sworn. All persons in the courtroom, please rise. Members, do you swear or affirm that you will answer truthfully the questions concerning whether you should serve as members of this court-martial, that you will faithfully and impartially try, according to the evidence, your conscience, and the laws applicable to trials by court-martial, the case of the accused now before this court, so help you God? If so, please say yes.
Yes,
sir. All members answered in the affirmative. Thank you. Please be seated. This court-martial is now assembled. Members of the court, it is appropriate that I give you some preliminary instructions. My duty as military judge is to ensure that this trial is conducted in a fair, orderly, and impartial manner according to the law. I preside over open sessions, rule upon objections, and instruct you on the law applicable to this case. You are required to follow my instructions on the law and may not consult any other source as to the law pertaining to this case unless it is admitted into evidence. Under the law, the accused is presumed to be innocent of the offense that the government has the burden of proving the accused's guilt by legal and competent evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. I will explain reasonable doubt to you in my final instructions. The fact that a charge has been preferred against this accused and referred to this court for trial does not permit any inference of guilt. You must determine whether the accused is guilty or not guilty based solely upon the evidence presented here in court and upon the instructions that I will give you. You must keep an open mind throughout the trial. You must impartially hear the evidence, the instructions on the law, and only when you are in closed session deliberations may you properly make a determination as to whether the accused is guilty or not guilty. The general order of events can be expected at this court-martial. Questioning of court members, opening statements by counsel, presentation of evidence, substantive instructions on the law to you, closing arguments by counsel, procedural instructions on voting, your deliberations, and announcement of the findings. Captain Hare, as you are the most senior member of this panel, you will serve as president of the panel. Staff Sergeant Franklin, you are the most junior member of the panel. I will explain the responsibility of those roles later on. Are there any questions?
No, sir.
Negative response from all members. Members, before counsel asks you any questions, I will ask you some preliminary questions. If any member has an affirmative response to any question, please just raise your hand. Does anyone know the accused in this case? That's a negative response from all members. Having seen the accused and having read the charge and specification, does anyone believe that you cannot give the accused a fair trial for any reason? It's a negative response from all members. Has anyone or any member of your family ever been charged with an offense similar to those charged in this case? It's a negative response from all members. Has anyone or any member of your family or anyone close to you personally ever been the victim of an offense similar to any of those charged in this case? Negative response from all members. The accused has pled not guilty to the charge and specification and is presumed to be innocent until his guilt is established by legal and competent evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. Does anyone disagree with this rule of law? The negative response from all members. Can each of you apply this rule of law and vote for a finding of not guilty unless you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused is guilty? It's a confusing question. I'm going to read it again. Can each of you apply this rule of law and vote for a finding of not guilty unless you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused is guilty?
Yes, yes, Your Honor.
It's a positive response from all members. On the other hand, can each of you vote for a finding of guilty if you are convinced that under the law the accused's guilt has been proved by legal and competent evidence beyond a reasonable doubt?
Yes, Your Honor. Yes, Your Honor.
Positive response from all members. Does each member understand that the burden of proof to establish the accused's guilt rests solely upon the prosecution, and the burden never shifts to the defense to establish the accused's innocence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Positive response from all members. Is any member aware of any matter that might raise a substantial question concerning their participation in this trial as a court member? The negative response from all members. The counsel for either side desire to question the court members.
Yes, Your Honor.
Defense, do you also want to have questions?
No, Your Honor.
Okay, well then I'll allow the government to proceed with their questions.
Did any of you know each other before this morning? If so, Will your acquaintance with any other juror affect your ability to deliberate and reach your independent decision as a juror in this case?
No, sir.
I will now read the names of the witnesses who may be called during this trial. If you know or think you might know any of the witnesses, please raise your hand and juror number at any time. The potential witnesses are Mrs. Jody Winters, Major Rabbit, and Sergeant Blank. It's negative. Do you have any strong feelings regarding the criminal justice system in the Marine Corps, included but not limited to your feelings about judges and lawyers that would prevent you from giving either the government or the defendant a fair hearing in this matter?
No.
Do you have a belief, whether religious or philosophical, which makes it difficult for you to sit in judgment of another?
No.
No further questions.
Thank you, Government. Defense, in light of that, do you have any questions?
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, counsel. Court members, I'll advise you in an earlier session, the accused pled not guilty to the charge and specification in this case. I'll also advise you that counsel are about to give their opening statements. These are not evidence. Rather, they are what counsel expect the evidence will show in the case. Does the government have an opening statement?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, in the early hours of August 18, 2024, a group of Marines gathered at Camp Lejeune for what was supposed to be a routine training exercise. This drill took place in the dead of night, cloaked by a pitch black darkness. These Marines had come together to sharpen their skills, to build discipline, to build trust in one another. The Marine Corps teaches values of loyalty, duty, and integrity. That morning, this trust was broken, as something went horribly wrong. Instead of returning safely from this drill, one Marine went out and turned off. At around 0300 hours, Lance Corporal Lott was shot in the head and killed. Not by an enemy on foreign soil or in the heat of battle, but instead was killed by a fellow Marine during a training exercise. That Marine was Corporal Winters, who stands before you today, charged with the murder of his fellow Marine. This was not just a moment of negligence, nor was it a tragic accident. Instead, it was a deliberate and purposeful act. And so this case is about more than just one Marine's death. It is about the erosion of trust that makes an institution like the Marine Corps strong. Lance Corporal Lott trusted his Marines to have his back. He believed in his leadership. And he believed that he could rely on Corporal Winters. But on that morning, Corporal Winters shattered that trust. And due to his willing decision, a young Marine lost his life in a place where he should not have. That early morning of August 18th, during this live fire training exercise, Corporal Winters made a series of choices that led to the deliberate and calculated shooting of Lance Corporal Lott. I'm sure you are all aware of the level of caution and vigilance required during this exercise. The kind of respect for the strict safety protocols designed to protect our Marines. And each Marine knows the gravity and danger of these exercises. You know that a single error could be deadly. But Corporal Winters made a series of choices. And what resulted from these choices was a fatal gunshot wound to Lance Corporal Lott. These choices speak not to negligence, but to a purposeful disregard for life. As evidence will show, in this context, these deviations were more than an oversight, but were instead deliberate. And so there was an intent behind this killing. Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal Lodge were not just fellow Marines. Their lives were unfortunately intertwined in a way that, for Corporal Winters, became a source of obsession. You will hear testimony about the affair between Lance Corporal Lodge and Mrs. Winters, Corporal Winters' wife. Evidence will show that after Corporal Winters discovered this affair, a darkness took hold of him. This was not just a one-time discovery that he could then just shrug off, or an emotional wound that quickly healed. It became a fixation, a bitter resentment that festered over months. You will hear from Mrs. Winters about how Corporal Winters responded to finding Lance Corporal alive, along with his scheming behavior in the months following. This will allow you to begin piecing together just how Corporal Winters formed his intent to murder Corporal alive. During their routine training exercise, this will also show you how Corporal Winters deliberated on how best to fulfill his attempt to kill. You will hear from Sergeant Blank about Corporal Winters' disposition on that day of the murder. Sergeant Blank will tell you how there were no circumstances present that could have made this incident a tragic accident, rather than the result of Corporal Winters taking deliberate steps to ensure he fulfilled the mission he set out to accomplish 3 months prior. You will hear from Major Rabbit how Corporal Winters blatantly disregarded training and Marine Corps procedures. This will show you that this was not a mere accident or act of negligence. Instead, it will show you that Corporal Winters made a deliberate choice to behave in a way that was so reckless that he endangered the lives of every Marine on the field that day and ended in a death. This was no sudden act of passion. This was premeditated, calculated, and deliberate. Throughout this trial, we will call witnesses who will paint a picture of what led to the events of that morning. Each witness will add a piece of the puzzle revealing how Corporal Winters' actions were part of a deliberate pattern. Therefore, ladies and gentlemen, the heart of this case is a young Marine who placed his trust in the brotherhood of his other Marines, who went into that training exercise expecting support and not betrayal. Lance Corporal Lodge was a Marine. He was a son and a brother. His life, his dreams, and his future, all cut short by a man who chose violence over duty, vengeance over life. Your role in this trial is not only to find the truth, but to uphold justice and honor the values that bind men and women who are Marine Corps. We ask that you carefully consider the evidence, the testimony, to ensure that the actions of Corporal Winters are met with accountability. We ask that you find Corporal Winters guilty of the premeditated murder of Lance Corporal Lodge. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, trial counsel. Defense, do you have an opening at this time, or do you wish to reserve?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, you may proceed.
Please report. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, good afternoon. According to those that know him, Corporal Winters is a Marine's Marine who will do anything for anyone and sets the example for others. One day this Marine comes home and witnesses what is a lot of people's worst nightmare. His wife engaged in intercourse with not only another Marine, but a member of his own team. His trust, his bond, completely betrayed. But Corporal Winters did what he was supposed to do. He worked on himself in therapy. He reconciled with his wife. He got back to work. He did exactly what the Marines trained him to do and put the Corps ahead of himself. Like a lot of Marines, he He showed incredible restraint when faced with grave odds. The prosecution is going to talk a lot about motive in this case. The prosecution wants you to define Corporal Winters not by what they can actually prove, but by what happened to him. They want you to say all the legal steps and say because something bad happened to him, that makes him the kind of person who couldn't help himself, but killed someone in cold blood and let everyone he knew. They want you to ignore all of the evidence in this case that Corporal Winters, one, reconciled with his Corporal Lyon's wife, two, abided by the fundamental weapon safety protocols at all times, and three, after the accident, jumped into action, doing whatever he could to save Lance Corporal Lyon's life. As the jury, you have the most important job in this room. It is your job to decide if the prosecution has another burden. If they have actually proved Corporal Winters is guilty of every single element of the crime beyond a reasonable doubt. Those words are very important, so remember them. It doesn't mean someone is possibly guilty. It doesn't even mean someone is probably guilty. It means that there is no other reasonable explanation for what happened that day. What happened that day was a tragic accident. Someone's life was lost, so let's not forget that. This is a dangerous job. Every single day, Marines pick up weapons to train and fight, simulating real-world conditions and real risks. It's not the first time an accident like that has happened to the Marines, and let's be honest, it's not going to be the last. As the defense, we're going to walk through every single legal standard with you, and we're going to show that while what happened that day was tragic, Corporal Winters did not commit the crime or anything every single day. First, the prosecution says that Corporal Winters is guilty of premeditated murder. Now, what does premeditated mean? It means that at the time of the killing, the accused had a premeditated design to kill. At the time. Not 3 months ago, not 2 months ago. It means that at the time that the finger pulled the trigger, they were acting out a calculated plan to kill a specific person with that weapon at that time. Now that you have that in your mind, let's talk about the evidence. You'll meet Lieutenant Commander Swig, Corporal Winters' therapist. Yes, you will learn about the pain, anguish, even anger after Corporal Winters' wife stepped outside their marriage. You will also learn about the dedicated work Corporal Winters did in therapy to heal. He let himself process the pain, and then he moved on. You'll hear from Sergeant Stevie about his friendship with Lance Corporal Lyon recovered. Even Lance Corporal Lyon, who had the greatest reason to be cautious around Corporal Winters, felt comfortable enough to joke and have fun with him. You'll hear that he couldn't have plans even if he wanted to. He had no say over who stood next to him in the exercise. He only happened to stand next to Lance Corporal Lyon by chance. You'll hear from Lance Corporal Brown and Agent Haggard about the shock and despair shown by Corporal Winters after the shooting. You're going to hear about his immediate reaction. The reflex before anyone would have time to think it was of disbelief and horror, not the reaction of someone whose plan has succeeded. Second, the prosecution says that Corporal Winters is guilty of intent to kill or intent to cause great bodily harm. What does intent mean? That they did it on purpose, not by accident. Again, the prosecution is going to talk a lot about motive here. They want that to be the same thing as intent. Now, the defense, neither the defense nor the prosecution can show you what's in his mind, so we have to go to the evidence. Because remember, the mere fact that a motive possibly exists is not a substitute for intent to kill at the time. To figure that out, we have to go to the evidence at the time. What are the circumstances? A live fire training exercise in front of everybody, where there would be nowhere to hide, cover anything up. And what about the conduct of Corporal Winters? You will learn that the first words Corporal Winters said when he found Lance Corporal Lyon on the ground were "get up." Not the words of someone who had just intentionally shot someone. Not the words of someone who even considered that they were hurt. The words of someone just before realizing that a horrific accident had just taken place. Finally, the prosecution says that Corporal Winters is guilty of wanton disregard for human life. And what does wanton disregard mean? It means that someone personally knew that death or great bodily harm was the probable result of his acts. The prosecution is going to want you to think that Corporal Winters should have known this or should have known that. In other words, the benefit of hindsight that we have in this course today. But this is about what Corporal Winters knew at the time, not what somebody else knew. You won't hear any evidence that Corporal Winters had personal knowledge that Lance Corporal Lyon was innocent in that fire. The prosecution also has to prove that Corporal Winters' conduct was inherently dangerous to everyone that day, not just to one specific person. So even if he fired the weapon in the vicinity of Lance Corporal Y, this doesn't count under the meaning of Article 19. The prosecution has no evidence that he fired his weapon near the other Marines in the line. But just to hammer it home, just because he fired that gun during training is not inherently dangerous and does not mean you have a want to disregard for human life. It's not what the law says, and it's not what the courts tell. He would have had to have been cavalier or careless with his weapon. But in fact, here the evidence says the opposite. You'll hear from Sergeant Blank that he handled his weapon responsibly. He had safety on at all times. He had a nice scope on the barrel. He respected the way he was trained. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, as you listen to testimony today, remember that Corporal Winters is innocent until and only if proven guilty. Never forget these 4 words, beyond a reasonable doubt. That's what it means to prove something, beyond a reasonable doubt. That there was no other reasonable possibility of what happened that day. Not based on conjecture or theories about motives, but based on facts and evidence. You're not just judging Corporal Winters today, you're also judging the prosecution. You're asking, did they do their job or not? If not, the defense implores you to do your duty and find Corporal Winters not guilty. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you, defense. Trial counsel, you may call your first witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Ms. Jody Winters to stand. How are you, Ms. Winters? I'm doing okay. Ms. Winters, do you recall giving a sworn testimony to investigators?
Trial counsel, before you begin, I'm just going to swear the witness in, okay?
Ma'am, if you could just stand up, face me. Raise your right hand. You swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? Thank you. You may proceed. Trial counsel, you can proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Winters, do you recall giving a sworn testimony to investigators? Yes. And Ms. Winters, do you recall what you stated that your husband said to Lance Corporal live once he found you guys having an affair? Yes. He said you would punch your back. Anything else?
Objection. Hearsay.
I'll rephrase. Is there anything else that you can remember that your husband stated?
Objection. Hearsay.
I'll move on, Your Honor.
Trial counsel, do you have a response, or?
I'll move on.
Okay.
And would it refresh your memory if I provided you what you stated to the investigators? Sure, yeah. Your Honor, they have a copy of the deposition. May I approach the witness?
Sure, we'll go ahead and mark this, exhibit, 1, you may approach.
Ms. Winters, I'm holding a copy of the deposition, and please read it to yourself quietly and it's not going to finish. Have you had sufficient time to review? Yes. And does that help you recall what you stated to the investigators regarding what your husband had said to the Lance Corporal at the time? Yes.
Objection. Hearsay.
Overruled.
Want you to beg for me? So, he said you better watch your back, not it. And is there anything else in there that you recollect your memory regarding what else was stated or what you stated? Like I said, he was angry, understandably. I was afraid he was gonna hurt me. And why were you afraid, Ms. Winters?
Because he was angry.
And Ms. Winters, are you aware of what evidence, if any, investigators found in your home after this shooting occurred?
No.
And did you at all see anything that investigators took from your home when they investigated your home? Was there any piece of evidence?
Not that I know.
So investigators found a diary belonging to your husband?
Objection, leading the witness.
Overruled.
Yes. Yes, they did.
Your Honor, I'm gonna hand a copy of the diary to the defense.
What that is covered in this too.
May I also approach the witness, Your Honor?
You may.
Ms. Winters, can I draw your attention to your husband's diary, and may you please read the highlighted portion?
Man, I am so upset that my wife cheated on me. I'm so deeply hurt that I could kill right now.
And what do you think of your husband's behavior?
We had a lot going on. We just started sort of a new position at working in NCO now. So I a lot to deal with, you know.
And would you say that this diary entry is then consistent with your husband's behavior the night that you caught you having an affair with Lance Corporal Locke?
Objection, speculation.
Trial counsel, you can rephrase, please.
Sure. Is this behavior that is frequent from your husband?
Not to this extreme. He's been angry before, short and irritated at very trivial things.
Would you say that this is then something very different out of character for him?
Yeah, absolutely.
And what evidence, if any, do you know that investigators found regarding a computer?
Yeah, they had found his search history, specifically something that he searched up regarding how to poison someone without them knowing.
And in your position, you also stated you have concerns about your husband binge watching shows such as having Get Away with Murder. Why was this concerning?
Well,
Objection, relevance.
You can overrule for now.
those shows made him sick, physically ill. So it was just strange that he took a liking to them.
And this was a brand new liking he took after finding out about the affair, correct?
Yeah.
No further questions. Thank you, Ms. Winters.
Defense cross.
Okay.
Can I do this?
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a minute to relax. You can see you're a bit nervous.
And so,
I can give you some
it's fine.
breathe out. Alright. First, I'd like to talk about your husband's relationship with people. How would you describe your relationship before the incident?
They weren't very close.
They weren't.
They weren't, sorry. He sort of just had very indifferent,
Starts about you
feelings.
more like acquaintances?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So you wouldn't consider that a friend? Person?
Um,
You're just acquaintances, like They knew each other?
Yeah, they work together, they're coworkers. They're around each other.
All right, let's talk about the specific incident today. You mentioned that he was initially angry upon discovering what had happened today. Would you agree that that anger was more directed towards you than it was to the last couple of months?
Can the defense counsel please speak up?
No?
Can the defense counsel please speak up?
Depends if you can just take your voice up, so
Sure.
I can hear you. Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, sorry. So, do you want me to repeat the question or did you hear it?
Oh, I
Okay. All right, so, I mean, I'll ask the question one more time so that the prosecution can hear. So, you had mentioned in your statement that your husband was very angry upon discovering your relationship with Let's Go.
Yes.
I'm asking, would you agree with me that that anger was more directed towards you than it was to Let's Go?
I would say it was more of just lashing out at the situation itself, more than directed towards any one person.
I mean, he felt betrayed by his mom. High school sweetheart, right? He also said that he was scared that he may hurt him or Let's Go. What was your statement in this position?
Yes.
Right? And then you had restrained him.
As best as I could.
As best as you could, right? Because you believe you may hurt Let's Go. Let's Go. You might, Coco Winters, you might stand up. Thank you. Look at this man. This is like a man that cannot overcome your restraint.
Don't answer that question. Defense, move on.
Okay. I thought he was free from your restraint. Did he chase after Let's Go?
Yes.
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 He chased after Let's Go. We can move on from that question.
Please.
Okay, let's talk about after the incident. You testified under oath in this that you all had a stable relationship after that.
Yes.
Could you describe what a stable relationship? How would you describe that relationship?
Well, he no longer is angry over trivial things. He's a lot more attentive and kind as he was before, growing up. I can recognize him again,
So you would agree with me that his anger seems to diminish?
Oh, yes.
You no longer felt threatened?
No.
You no longer felt that Let's Go should be friendly?
No.
So you work out. Things are working out for both of you. Okay. You also stated that you took interest in crime shows.
Yeah, it was strange.
Strange. I mean, do you think the average American watches crime shows?
Oh, yeah. Of course.
Okay. So you within your assessment, it's a pretty normal thing, pretty common thing.
Yeah, it was just strange for him because he normally doesn't watch those things. And I took notice of it, but it's not abnormal, I would say, like in general.
Did you observe anything specific that would make you believe that either you or Let's Go was threatened or would be harmed? Like he didn't make future statements. Did they make any future statements about wanting to kill anyone or wanting to harm anyone? I remind you of what you said. You said he was dead and you didn't feel threatened anymore.
Correct, that's your regulation.
I was literally recording what she had said.
That's, let him finish the question. You can renew your objection at that time. That's, great, that's, what was the question?
So the question is if there was any observation of any specific threats to either you, the defendant, the witness, or that's what we're about.
After the night of the incident, I would say no.
That's all.
Thank you. Trial counsel, Penn. Trial counsel, can you go to your second witness, please?
Your Honor, prosecution calls for the blank stand.
Sergeant, you just stand and raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in the matter now and hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God. Thank you, Sergeant. You can be seated.
Hi, Mr. Blank, how are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm good, thank you. So, Mr. Blank, what did you do with Corporal Winter's rifle prior to the fire exercises, if anything at all?
Prior to the fire exercises, we did our inspection, where it was inspected to make sure that there was no malfunctions or anything, and they were clear.
And so, when you inspected his rifle, did it meet the standard for the live fire exercise?
It did.
And did Corporal Winters report any issues with his rifle and or any equipment prior to the exercise?
He did not.
And when you observed his demeanor prior to the exercise, how did he seem?
He seemed cool, ready to go.
Do you say he was not agitated, he was calm?
No, I didn't notice anything about his behavior that was abnormal.
No further questions. Thank you, Mr. Brown.
Dennis Cross.
So just for restatement purposes, what was the condition of his rifle at that time?
So his weapon was condition 4.
What does that mean for those of us who do not understand?
So weapon, condition 4 means that his weapon was unsafe, and there was no magazine inserted, there was no ammunition inside of the weapon.
Okay, so there was no possible fire.
No.
For restatement purposes again, because I believe the prosecution just asked. No, I don't know.
No.
Seems cool.
Cool, budget, ready to go.
Okay. To your knowledge, did anyone, did anyone instruct or advise Corporal Winters about the use of night vision?
Objection, Your Honor, speculation.
Overruled.
Yeah, so did anyone instruct or advise Corporal Winters about the use of night vision goggles or night vision devices?
So at this point, yes. It was covered like itself. Everyone's been the same instruction on.
What was the condition?
It was dark, damp.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Chaotic.
Yes, it was yes. Like it was arranged in a lot of moving parts, a lot of people yelling. Like I thought going on. What is this?
Yeah. Further questions, Your Honor?
Thank you.
Trial counsel, you call your next witness.
Sergeant, etc.
Your Honor, prosecution refers to legal counsel for direct examination of the house witness.
Your Honor, the prosecution calls Major Rapp to the stand.
You just raise your right hand. You swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in the matter now and here will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You may be seated. Thank you.
Major Rapp, how are you doing this morning?
I'm doing well. Thank you.
That's good. Now, Major Rapp, are there policies in place to ensure the safety of fellow Marines while engaging in live fire exercise?
Absolutely.
What would you say will happen if these policies are not followed?
Those policies are not followed, an investigation takes place, and those that break those rules are held accountable.
But what, more than just the legal consequences, what would happen to other Marines there? What could happen, in your opinion?
If the safety guidelines are not followed, then a mishap could occur.
Would it be fair to say these mishaps can sometimes be fatal?
They can.
Included in these policies is the minimum required equipment.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Bench, Your Honor.
Go over.
One for you.
Your Honor, the prosecution has a copy of Marine Corps Order 3574.2M, which outlines the policies and procedures to be followed during live fire training exercises.
Do you want to mark this as an exhibit and show us the witness? We'll mark that as government exhibit 3.
Do you recognize this document, Major Rapp?
Please say again.
Do you recognize this document?
I do.
Can you tell us what it is?
So this is a document that describes the annual rifle qualifications and the courses of fire associated with that, as well as the equipment to be used during this course of fire.
To your knowledge, does this fairly and accurately summarize the policies and procedures attendant to this type of exercise?
It does.
Your Honor, this time I move to enter Marine Corps Order 3574.2M and evidence exhibit 3.
Is there a relevant portion you'd like to call to attention, members' attention to you as witness?
Would you read aloud the highlighted portions on pages 3.2 and 3.3? Major?
I can. Minimum required equipment, as issued by the Marine Corps Supply Systems, authorized equipment list is published annually. Annual rifle qualification. Service rifle with modular attachments include U.S. Marine Corps Common Weapon Sling, load-bearing gear, 6 magazines, magazine pouches, hearing protection, eye protection, body armor, and helmet. Attaching magazine pouches directly to the body armor is authorized. No water-carrying devices, paint, inclement weather gear are authorized. Section Bravo, tables 3 through 6. Service rifle with modular attachments, laser aiming device, night vision device. U.S. Marine Corps Common Weapon Sling, load-bearing gear, 6 magazines, magazine pouches, hearing protection, eye protection, body armor and helmet, and attaching magazine pouches to directly the body armor is authorized. Helmet mounted night vision device. That is the last one.
Thank you, Major, for reading that. Now, does Camp Lejeune follow these policies, including issuing the minimum required equipment as outlined in the portion you just read?
They do.
That's good to know. Now, Major, did you receive the forensic pathologist report for Lance Corporal Law in capacity as a battalion executive officer?
I did.
Your Honor, prosecution is handing to defense counsel a copy of the forensic pathologist report detailing Lance Corporal Lai's injuries.
May I approach the bench?
Thanks.
Now, Major, do you recognize this document?
I do.
And tell us what it is, if you don't mind.
This is a forensic pathologist report detailing Lance Corporal Lai's injuries.
To your knowledge, is this a fair and accurate depiction of the document?
It is.
Your Honor, I move to enter this time the forensic pathologist report and the evidence as exhibit 4.
Is there any objections from defense?
Not at this time, Your Honor.
With no objection from defense, the words for identification will be stricken, the exhibit will be entered into evidence.
Would you please read, Major, the highlighted portion out?
One entrance wound to the bottom back of skull caused by a 5.56 by 45 millimeter NATO round. One exit wound from the right temple. Forensic pathologist determined that the wound was fatal by conducting an autopsy.
Thank you, Major. No further questions.
Defense crossed.
They won't.
Alright, so, first of all, I want to know about, did you know him personally?
I did not know Corporal Winters on a personal level.
Can defense counsel please speak up and speak clearly?
I asked if,
Yeah, just make sure you're speaking into your microphone so everyone can hear you. Thank you.
I was asking if, Major Raddick knew Corporal Winters personally.
I would say I did not know him on a personal level. We have served in the same unit and deployed together.
Based on your, I guess, professional knowledge, can I call that?
Absolutely.
What do you know about him?
Objection, lack of personal knowledge, you can't speak on the defendant.
Vince, can you be more specific about what exactly you're asking the Major?
According to your professional knowledge, what kind of a Marine would you consider Corporal Winters?
Objection, lack of personal knowledge, he cannot speak on the defendant.
Alright, so let's talk about the specific conditions of the bed. Do you mind just describing for the jury what table 3 is said?
Absolutely. Table 3 is one of our advanced rifle qualification tables of fire. What this typically, the purpose of table 3 is to teach the marksmanship skills required for close combat lethality. So similar to what you find inside of a building or a dense urban environment. The course of fire is built to teach a number of drills, such as multiple target engagement, multiple shots on each target, moving from a distance of 25 meters to 5 meters.
What time is this specific training for?
Approximately 0400.
0400. How frequent does this exercise happen at this time?
According to our training and readiness manual for infantry operations, this live fire qualification should be conducted twice a year.
Twice a year. And all the equipment provided for this specific exercise?
That is correct.
Are they encouraged to use it?
They're required.
They're required to use it. Okay. Can you describe the conditions in the very moment? In the scenery, like what are the weather conditions? What is the situation, the scenario look like?
So the table 3 course of fire is required to be conducted both during the daytime and in the night conditions. During the day, obviously the optical gun sight is used. At night, the night vision laser, or the night vision goggles, PVS 14s and Tech 16 night vision aiming laser are used in conjunction with the rifle. During this time, it was a damp evening in the dark conditions. There was enough ambient light that the night vision goggles were functioning properly.
Damp. You said it was a damp condition?
Damp.
You said there were a lot of moving targets?
The targets themselves are not moving.
No, I mean moving, sorry, so like the people themselves are moving.
So how this would work is all the Marines would be in a line facing the target area, and then they would move forward as a group to engage those targets when called by the instructor.
Okay. So, who's responsible for them observing this safety protocol?
It begins with the individual Marine. It begins with the individual Marine. Every Marine
Supervisor.
Supervisor would be a range safety officer and the officer in charge.
Okay. So the officers in charge or the range safety officers, do you have any concerns in that thing?
Not that time.
In your opinion, would accidental discharge or misfire in these conditions be difficult to recognize?
It could be difficult to recognize by the range safety officers.
Could the defense counsel please repeat that question? I'm not here.
Colonel?
Yeah, can you just repeat the question?
In your opinion, would accidental discharge or misfire in these conditions be difficult to recognize? You've already answered it would be difficult to recognize.
Well, can we just hear that answer a little
Right.
bit, please?
As long as the Marine fired his weapon when instructed, then it would not be difficult to recognize. It could be difficult to recognize where his impact were at that time.
Your Honor, may I ask a question? For the record, could it show that you already answered this question before now?
The record is transcribing everything that you said and everything I've already said, so the record reports.
Thank you. With regards to personal conflict and rivalries amongst Marines, what protocols do you have that when it comes to your awareness, how do you deal with it as a example?
Objection relevance?
Overruled.
Please restate the question.
Yes. So as it comes to interpersonal conflicts in between Marines in your battalion, how do you respond to that?
Well, it's based on a specific situation. I mean, Marines are humans. Humans have altercations, frustrations with each other regularly, and that's no different from a Marine.
Do you have any concerns that this specific incident was going to lead to anything more than just your personal conflict?
Objection, my personal knowledge, he already says he doesn't know the defendant.
He's a battalion excessor.
Can you be more specific about which incident you're speaking about right now?
Yes. In your opinion, or not in your opinion, when you found out about your battalion excessor, correct?
I am.
Okay. So did you have any knowledge about the conflict in between Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal Black?
I was not aware of this conflict until after the live fire was happened.
Okay. Were you supposed to know that?
I'm not aware that the command knew that the extramarital affair occurred.
Okay. Was it supposed to be reported to you?
No, it's not. It doesn't trigger a commander's critical incident report.
Alright. Let's go back to the specific day incident. The designated formation. Do they have designated formation?
You say
The Marines for the range, right? They're on the, who's responsible for designating their positions?
for designating their position.
Yes. Do they have a position?
The Marines physically on the range?
Yeah.
Yes, the range safety officer.
Okay. So, in each Marine's position, the formation is specifically assigned by the Marines?
This is a very standardized course of fire, and this can typically conducted in the same way every time.
Okay. So, I mean, just to be clear, for Winters, his choice or decision of where to be positioned was not done by him.
They were in the same fire team. I assume that the way that the company did the training was they had fire teams firing together. So it's not atypical for him to be located next to one local line.
Whose responsibility is it to designate that?
Be on the small unit leader, in this case, it's squad leader.
Okay. All right.
Thank you, guys. Maybe you can sit down. Thank you. Thank you. Trial counsel, how many more witnesses do you intend to call?
That is our final witness, Your Honor.
That's your final witness, okay. Does the government rest at this time?
Yeah, Your Honor, we'd like to redirect.
I'm sorry?
If we could redirect at this time, Your Honor.
Just due to time constraints, we're not going to do any redirect of any of the witnesses.
Understood, Your Honor.
There's no further witnesses?
No, Your Honor.
Does the government rest?
Yes, Your Honor.
All right, at this time, time, we're going to take a 10-minute health and comfort break. This court stands in recess.
Okay, normally the bailiff is set. Yeah. Yeah, major. Yeah. 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 I actually just got selected for the military job, so I haven't used any. Watching yeah. Early in your career, you're more successful. The career second and third. Oh, really? Yeah, no, I absolutely. That's great. Oh, wow. Yeah, yes, sir. Yeah. And you're off. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
I'm hurting right now, right? I'm struggling. I'm struggling. I'll be able to hurt. I'm sitting here watching. You got it. Probably. Really?
Yeah, they probably get promoted. Or maybe even. Yeah. Some of the non-field. So I was active from 2010 and 2018. Being a judge advocate. A lot of flexibility. He's guilty because of what you do. So you can just be like, it's never good for me. Oh, you know, I saw that. You can't get angry like that.
was like, there's the best years ever. I'm gonna go up.
Sitting in an office or something like that. Oh, yeah, 6 months. Yeah, it's like, just really, you always look good. Very good. Oh, okay. My dad grew up. Yeah, I grew up.
Yeah, she was.
Oh, it's hard. I mean, they're young. I just don't good. Who's the gas?
Oh, the great. I got you.
Also, yeah. Right. Yeah, I remember when I got school, and I like, good. No, they don't know that. Might take like one shot.
The awesome problem.
Like you made it's like this way, like most lawyers. Like Marine lawyers are always great, but most lawyers will work with somebody else. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. It's kind of like two tracks, so he like commanded by
Where needed, if you catch one that I was okay with, it might catch one.
So some people really. But now, like,
Can everybody report back to their seats, please?
All right, this court martial is called back to order. Defense, do you have a case?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may call your first witness.
Your Honor, leave your signature.
Thank you for pointing that out. We will wait until the members are assembled. So call members return to the courtroom. All right, defense, you may proceed with your first witness.
The defense calls Lieutenant Squid.
And if you face me, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give in the matter now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. You may proceed. Defense may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Hello, Lieutenant Squid. Could you first describe to the jury your professional role in the United States Navy?
I am a psychiatrist with the United States Navy, able to help out with therapy for active duty and dependents and reservists.
Thank you. In this role, when did you first start providing your professional services to Corporal Winters?
Corporal Winters was able to establish with me for a little bit more than over a year.
So when you first began providing services to Corporal Winters, how would you describe his overall attitude and behavior?
He definitely stood himself apart from a lot of other Marines I've met, most definitely. He was described, or just from my interactions with him and talking about his relationships with his other Marines, he was known to be a Marine, and a lot of other Marines would say they would try to emulate themselves, try to be like Corporal Winters.
Immediately after Corporal Winters learned about his wife's affair with Lance Corporal Lye, did you notice any changes in his attitude or behavior?
Definitely. He definitely had some feelings of depression, which he told me normal, feelings of sadness. These can be normal disorders, what we call adjustment disorder. Essentially, when a significant event happens in someone's life, they can kind of feel these feelings of depression, sadness, anxiety for a few weeks. And so that's what he was feeling during that initial time. He was also feeling a little bit of, or he was feeling hostility as well toward his wife as well, some anger.
So you would say the majority of this depression, anxiety, anger was more directed at his wife than it was to anybody else.
That is correct.
And based on your professional experience, were these emotions and this change in attitude, was it out of the ordinary for someone who had been through similar circumstances as Corporal Winters?
It would not be out of ordinary.
Generally, in your professional role, if you come to the conclusion that one of your clients is an immediate and probable danger to a third party, is it your professional responsibility to alert that third party that they may be in danger?
That's a great question. It ultimately depends. We are mandated reporters. However, in the military, it is a little bit different. Say a service member expresses something called suicidal ideation, we can start that one, but we would be obligated to report. For instance, if they were able to talk to a chaplain and express that to a chaplain, the chaplain would not be a mandated reporter. So in this instance, when he was not expressing any homicidal ideation toward anyone.
So at no point during any of your interaction with Corporal Winters did you feel like it was your professional responsibility to alert anybody else that they may be in danger?
No, sir.
So moving past this immediate time frame after Corporal Winters' wife's affair, over the ensuing months, how did you continue to help Corporal?
During our multiple sessions, we incorporate something called behavioral therapy, which helps with processing negative emotions and thoughts and be able to expose him to more of these negative emotions and thoughts and kind of rewire his brain to think about positive emotions and positive actions that he can redirect himself toward to kind of be essentially what we call a positive coping mechanism. And so over these multiple sessions that we were able to work together, it seems it only took him a couple of months and he was no longer expressing any hostility or anger toward anyone.
So to your knowledge, at around the time that this accident took place, that Corporal Winters had restored his original behavior and attitude and had come to peace with this situation?
Yes.
Final question. In your professional opinion, do you believe that Corporal Winters had any malice towards Lance Corporal White in the weeks leading up to Lance Corporal White's passing?
No, sir. During our sessions, he would chat that he had no ill intentions toward Lance Corporal White and even sought out, restarting a new, brand new relationship.
No further questions.
Mr. Cross.
Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon, Lieutenant Commander Squid. I'm going to ask you some questions. The questions that I'm asking you generally require yes or no answers. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is it true that Corporal Winter was visually upset after discovering his wife's infidelity?
Yes.
Is it true that Corporal Winter has displayed hostility towards Lance Corporal White?
Yes.
Is it true that 1 month prior to the incident that Corporal Winter seemed to be suddenly at peace with the situation?
Yes.
Is it true that Corporal Winter has displayed drastic changes in his emotional response regarding to the infidelity?
Sorry, could you repeat that question?
Is it true that Corporal Winter has displayed drastic emotional changes regarding the infidelity?
Sorry, I'm not understanding that one word in there.
Sorry, what
I'm sorry,
is
sound like
Drastic, sir. Drastic.
He did not explain drastic.
So there's no changes in his emotions?
Oh, sorry. There was a change in emotions for the better, yes.
Did he ever display aggressive thoughts regarding the infidelity?
Yes.
Have patients ever used indifference as a coping mechanism to aggressive thoughts in your practice?
you repeat that question?
Can patients ever use indifference as a coping mechanism?
A difference? What was that?
Indifference.
Sorry, I'm not understanding that.
Indifference.
Oh, indifference. I don't think I can answer that question.
How often are the sessions you have with Corporal Winter?
We can run them weekly to every 2 weeks,
So you see him once a week or once every 2 weeks, correct?
as needed.
Are you bound by patient-doctor confidentiality?
Yes.
Referring to your comment of him as a Marines Marine, would you say Corporal Winter is a very dedicated Marine?
Yes.
Would you also say that he's a responsible Marine?
Yes.
Then, can I say that a dedicated, responsible Marine is during a live exercise?
Objection, argumentative.
That is all the question I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you, defense, you can call your next witness, please.
The defense calls Sergeant Snoopy.
Raise your right hand. You swear to affirm the testimony that you will give in this case now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
I do, Your Honor.
Be seated, thank you.
Hello, Sergeant Snoopy. Could you first, for the jury, talk about how you know Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal?
I know Corporal Winters and knew Lance Corporal Live through the unit. I've been a part of this unit, and we like to stay very close in the report.
When was the last time that you saw Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal Live together before Lance Corporal Live passed?
I saw them the day before the exercise.
What did you observe going on between Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal Live?
They were smoking and joking, just having a good time like old friends would.
What was the overall attitude or atmosphere between them as they were smoking and joking?
I would say it was very lighthearted. It's like you see any other Marines just sitting around having a cigarette and just catching up in between times.
Was there any violence or physical contact during this interaction that you observed?
None that I saw.
Overall, did you see the interaction between Corporal Winters and Lance Corporal Live as just any normal interaction between any Marines?
Yes, I would say that.
No further questions, Your Honor.
Governor, is your cross-examination?
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Corporal Snoopy. I'm going to ask you a question that requires yes or no answers. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is it true that you overheard Corporal Winter say?
Objection, hearsay.
It's a statement of the accused, overruled.
Is it true that you overheard Corporal Winter say "Sue motherfucker" as he walked away from Lance Corporal Live the day before the incident?
Yes, that is true.
At this time, did you know the history between the two?
I did, yes.
Isn't it true that Lance Corporal Live responded with "Damn bro, I guess we still hate each other then"?
Objection, hearsay.
Sustained.
Your Honor, if I may answer without a yes or no question? Just
To sustain the objection as to that question, the trial counsel can ask you a question.
Is it true that a table 3 exercise requires stringent training prior to the actual logging?
what would you mean by that question?
Like you guys require training between a live table 3 exercise?
That is correct.
Is it true that an incident like this happens rarely?
It is rare, however, accidents do happen.
Is it true that Marines should come in with all the required equipment at a live firing exercise?
It is actually, it is required to have all the required equipment, and whoever's in charge of you, so your team leader or your squad leader, will verify that you have all that equipment before you even begin the exercise.
So yes.
Yes.
Are night vision goggles part of the required equipment?
They don't want this.
Objection, asked and answered.
Overruled.
Is it true that you did not actually witness Corporal Winter shooting Lance Corporal alive?
Yes.
That is all the question I have.
Thank you, Governor.
Your Honor, motion for redirect.
Just due to time constraints, we're not going to be doing any redirect of any witnesses. Sir, you can sit down. Tennessee calling its witness.
The defense calls HM2 Haggard.
If you can raise your right hand, you swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the matter now hearing will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do, Your Honor. Thank you. You can be seated. Tennessee may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. HM2 Haggard, what was your role for this Naval 3 live fire exercise?
I was there for safety as a foreman.
Where did they have you positioned at the beginning of the Naval 3 exercise?
I was positioned in the safety area, just in the general area to make sure that other Marines were, or if anything happened, that I'll be able to administer aid or what have you.
Within the safety area, approximately how far away were you from the location of the accident?
I would say about 100 yards.
About 100. How did you become aware that your medical services were needed?
I heard Lance Winters scream to he needed a foreman.
From 100 yards away, and at the time, were you also wearing ear protection as required?
Yes.
So, did Corporal Winters have to scream quite loud in order to get your attention?
Yes, I would say so.
When you made it over to the accident scene, who all was there?
It was Corporal Winters and Sergeant Lynn.
Could you describe your observations of Corporal Winters at the time?
He was in shock, scared, crying a little bit, and freaking out.
As a medical professional in the Marine Corps, have you previously arrived at a gruesome accident scene shortly after it took place?
Yes.
At these gruesome scenes, have you previously observed fellow Marines who were involved in these accidents?
Yes.
Based on your prior experience and your observations, did Corporal Winters' reaction to the accident appear to you as out of the ordinary?
No.
So to you, it appeared that Corporal Winters would act as anybody would if this accident took place?
Yes.
I'll sustain the objection. Members, you can disregard the answer to the last question.
No further questions.
Cross. You may proceed. Yes, Your Honor.
Good afternoon. Hospital and second class hybrid. I'm going to ask you questions that generally require the external answers. Do you understand?
Yes.
Is it true that Lance Corporal Lyons was shot through the back of his skull with the bullet exit through his right temple?
Yes.
Is it true that a shot entering from the back of someone's skull exiting the right temple is a killing shot?
Yes.
Is it true that, generally speaking, as a responsible Marine, when you see someone getting injured at a life exercise, you would call the hospital man?
Yes.
When the shooting happened, you were staying in the safety area, correct?
Yes.
So that means you did not actually witness how Lance Corporal Lyons was shot, correct?
Correct.
That's all the question I have. Thank you.
Thank you. You said them. Can I see another witness?
Yes, we'd like to call our final witness, Lance Corporal.
raise your right hand. You swear or affirm the testimony you'll give in the matter now hearing the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Yes, Your Honor.
Proceed. Thank you. Defense may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Lance Corporal Brown, for the jury, can you tell us what your role was during this live fire exercise?
During the live fire exercise, I was participating in it. I was a 0311, so I was right next to him when it happened.
You're right next to it.
I was next to,
Lance Corporal Live, that's when you were shot.
yes.
At what time did the table three exercise begin?
It was about 03 in the morning.
Where you were positioned right next to Lance Corporal Live, and about where was Corporal Winter relative to your position?
I believe he's behind us, or next to us as well.
So, at least at the beginning of the exercise, were you all in line?
We're all in line, yes.
Where were you positioned relative to Lance Corporal Live when he went down?
When he went down, so I saw him go down, and then I immediately went to go, like, assist him and get him back up. So after that, I tried to help him up, and then after that, Corporal Winters came over, and he said something to him along the lines of, "Get up, you need to keep moving." And after Corporal Winters saw blood coming from Lance Corporal Live, he proceeded to call for a foreman.
We didn't see that. So, did Lance Corporal Live fall forward, backward, or to the side?
I fell forward.
Oh. So, after he fell, position on the ground?
It seemed like he had just come over. At first, like, you don't really know what was going on.
And as you briefly mentioned earlier, your initial reaction was that he had just fallen and you went over to try to hit him.
Objection meeting.
Overruled. When you saw Lance Corporal Live go down, what did you think was the cause for him falling?
Objection speculation.
Sustained.
Was your intention by helping him up to continue the exercise as normal?
Yes.
So immediately after he went down, you had no reason to believe.
Objection meeting.
You can finish your question and overrule the objection.
Did you personally believe that he could have been shot now?
It's always a possibility, yes.
The objection was overruled to the record.
Did you consider that possibility though?
Not at first.
Because you wanted to continue the exercise.
Yes.
So, as you continue this as normal, you didn't hear any bullets fly past your own head?
Objection meeting.
Sustained.
From your observation, did any other Marine act as if they were in danger as a result?
Objection speculation.
Overruled.
You need to read that question.
No other Marines acted like they were in danger.
No Marines acted. So, how long after seeing Lance Corporal Live go down before Corporal Winters came up to those?
It was almost immediate.
What was Corporal Winters' initial reaction to seeing it, as far as you observed?
After I attempted to hold Lance up, Corporal Winters came over and attempted to assist him back up. He said something along the lines of, "Get up, you need to keep moving."
And again, how was it discovered that Lance Corporal Live was injured?
He saw blood coming from Lance Corporal Live.
And as far as you're concerned, after you both observed the blood, what did Corporal Winters do next?
After seeing the blood, Corporal Winters called for the corpsman immediately.
And from your perspective, did he act in any way out of the ordinary given circumstances?
No.
No other questions?
Cross.
Yes, Your Honor.
You may proceed.
Good afternoon, Lance Corporal Brown. The question I'm gonna be asking you requires yes or no answers, do you understand?
Yes.
Is it correct that the time of the incident occurred, it was dark on the deck?
Yes.
Were you wearing a night vision goggle?
Yes.
Is it true that Lance Corporal Light fell to the ground suddenly without warning?
Yes.
Do you agree with Major Rabbit's testimony that as long as the Marine fired a weapon as instructed, it wouldn't be difficult to recognize the target?
Could you repeat that?
Do you agree with Major Rabbit's testimony that as long as the Marine fired his weapon as instructed, it wouldn't be difficult to recognize the target?
Objection to speculation. Sustained.
Is it true that you were standing next to Lance Corporal Light when he was shot?
Objection. Asked and answered. Overruled.
Is it true that when the shooting happened, you were not present next to Corporal Winter?
We were all on.
Were you standing next to Corporal Winter?
No.
So you cannot testify as a first-hand witness regarding what Corporal Winter did exactly during the live firing exercise, correct?
Objection, argumentative.
Overruled.
I can repeat the question. So you cannot testify as a first-hand witness regarding what Corporal Winter did during the live fire exercise, correct?
Yes.
That's all the question I have. Thank you so much.
Thank you. We step down. Thank you. Since you were calling for other witnesses in this case, then that's rest. Thank you. All right, at this time, we'll take another 10-minute health comfort break.
Oh.
I was going to go into some negative stuff. I got So you don't need to get a lot of you need to get a lot of like many of the safety measures are in place because they like line and things like that.
Yeah.
It's 30. Tell them.
But based on what we have.
Ladies and gentlemen, appreciate
time and attention. Appreciate you understanding this brief recess based on the trial. There's some catering outside the meeting to your left, so you can help yourselves, right? That's all there.
Hey, could you bring my name?
Okay.
Yes.
So I did.
No, a lot of like, it really depends on some judges. Yeah, forward. You don't want to worry about the answer.
What's that?
Oh, no. No, kind of just.
You probably
Oh, it's actually, but I thought he was just wanted to.
Oh, 94?
Yeah, I guess that.
There's a lot.
Oh, right.
Yeah. I understood it.
Ooh, yeah.
There was one.
How I'm into it.
Yeah.
It's so good. Trust me. It doesn't matter. But you shouldn't have to there. You shouldn't have to be scared. Part of the day, you're not going to be jumping.
I like the organic. Yeah. I actually know. I don't understand. You gotta walk your street. I was like, this is so, also,
I say they said, I'm supposed to. Hey, Doc. Yeah. Good practice.
Not really, man. Glasses stuff, he was like, you know, that kind of. Yeah. Yeah. Everybody else.
Yeah, he
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait. I was about to. Like, was not sure, like, yeah, we could be in about like specific. I was like, I'm really expecting that this was awesome. Yeah. You'll be in shock. Yeah. I was back then, like. What they do seems to I should think so.
Everybody.
And it's like, what do you want to do? I'm just like, I'm not happy with that. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say, I didn't certify, so. I don't have public no, I think she was the female that was with Bailey. So Bailey recruited this girl.
So.
And she came back and she because of her. And then you get to give her. I think she just like right now.
I know. There was not too much. I'm still
She's good.
Right, yeah. I'm just saying.
Because if I get so to that, hey, 17.
Yeah, I would say. Well, no, I mean,
Yeah, you're right. I'll be. Yeah. No, yeah, we'll let you.
Can we please be seated?
All right, this court martial is called back to order. All right, trial counsel, this time if you could approach the bench, please. Just gonna hand you the findings worksheet to trial counsel, this is the findings worksheet. We're gonna mark this as appellate exhibit 1. If you could show us the defense and then hand it back to me. Defense counsel, do you have any objections to the findings worksheet?
No, Your Honor.
Thank you. All right, members of the court, when you close to deliberate and vote on the findings, each of you must resolve the ultimate question of whether the accused is guilty or not guilty based upon the evidence presented here in court and upon the instructions that I will give you. My duty is to instruct you on the law. Your duty is to determine the facts, apply the law to those facts, and determine whether the accused is guilty or not guilty. The law presumes the accused to be innocent of all charges. The accused is charged with 2 alternate theories of murder in this case. I will read you the elements of these offenses, followed by giving you instructions on the law that you must follow in your deliberations. I will provide you with a written copy of these instructions for your closed session deliberations. All right, the first theory of guilt for the accused in this case is premeditated murder, a violation of Article 118 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The elements of this offense are 1, that Lance Corporal Lai is dead, and 2, that his death resulted from the act of the accused, in that he was shot by the accused with premeditated design and intent to kill at a live fire range. 3, that the killing of Lance Corporal Lai by the accused was unlawful, and 4, that at the time of the killing, the accused had a premeditated design to kill. The killing of a human being is unlawful when done without legal justification or excuse. Premeditated design to kill means the formation of a specific intent to kill and consideration of the act intended to bring about death. The premeditated design to kill does not have to exist for any measurable or particular length of time. The only requirement is that it must precede the killing. Second, the government in this case has charged murder while engaging in an act inherently dangerous to another, also a violation of Article 118 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. The elements of this offense are 1, that Lance Corporal Lai is dead, 2, that his death resulted from the intentional act of the accused in that he was shot by the accused at a live fire range, 3, that this act was inherently dangerous to another and showed a wanton disregard for human life, 4, that the accused knew the death or great bodily harm was a probable consequence of the act, and 5, that the killing by the accused was unlawful. The killing of a human being is unlawful when done without legal justification or excuse. The act must be intentional, but death or great bodily harm does not have to be the intended result. The act may even be accompanied by a wish that the death will not be caused. An act shows a wanton disregard for human life when it is characterized by heedlessness of the probable consequences of the act, or indifference to the likelihood of death or great bodily harm, and demonstrates a total disregard for the known probable results of death or bodily harm. The evidence is an accident in relationship to our defense. Accident is a complete defense to the offense of murder. The accused was doing a lawful act, if the accused was doing a lawful act in a lawful manner, free of any negligence on his part, and an unexpected death occurs, the accused is not criminally liable. The defense of accident has 3 parts. First, the accused's act resulting in the death must have been lawful. Second, the accused must not have been negligent. In other words, the accused must have been acting with the amount of care for the safety of others that a reasonably prudent person would have used under the same or similar circumstances. Third, the death must have been unforeseeable and unintentional. The burden is on the prosecution to establish the guilt of the accused. Consequently, unless you are convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the death was not the result of an accident, the accused may not be convicted of murder. If you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt that the accused did not act with the amount of care for the safety of others that a reasonably prudent person would have used under the same or similar circumstances, the defense of accident does not exist. However, this does not necessarily mean the accused is guilty of murder. To find the accused guilty of this offense, the accused's conduct must have amounted to more than simple negligence. Simple negligence is the failure to act with the care for the safety of others that a reasonably prudent person would have used under the same or similar circumstances. An act inherently dangerous to another is one that is characterized by heedlessness of probable consequences of the act, indifference to the likelihood of death or great bodily harm, and clearly demonstrates a total disregard for the known probable results of death or great bodily harm. To summarize at this point, a finding of civil negligence will deprive the accused of the accident defense. However, civil negligence is not enough to find the accused guilty of the offense of murder. A finding the accused in an inherently dangerous act, evincing a wanton disregard for human life, and thus not protected from criminal liability by the defense of accident, you may not convict unless you find beyond a reasonable doubt that the inherently dangerous act was a proximate cause of the death. Proximate cause means that the death must have been the result of the accused's inherently dangerous act. A proximate cause does not have to be the only cause, but it must be a direct or contributing cause which plays a material role, meaning an important role in bringing about the death. If some unforeseeable, independent, intervening event which did not involve the accused was the only cause which played any important part in bringing about the death, then the accused may not be convicted of the offense of murder. The burden is on the prosecution to establish the guilt of the accused. Before the accused can be convicted of murder, you must be convinced beyond a reasonable doubt that the defensive accident either does not exist or has been disproved, and that the accused's inherently dangerous conduct was a proximate cause of the death of Lance Corporal Lott. Evidence may be direct or circumstantial. Direct evidence is evidence which tends to directly prove or disprove a fact and issue. If a fact and issue was whether it rained during the evening, testimony by a witness that he or she saw it rain would be direct evidence that it did in fact rain. On the other hand, circumstantial evidence is evidence that tends to prove some other fact from which either alone or together with some other facts or circumstances you may reasonably infer the existence or non-existence of a fact and issue. If there was evidence the street was wet in the morning, that would be circumstantial evidence from which you might reasonably infer it rained during the night. There is no general rule for determining or comparing the weight to be given to direct or circumstantial evidence. You should give all the evidence the weight and value that you believe it deserves. I have instructed you that premeditated intent to commit murder must be proved beyond a reasonable doubt. Direct evidence of intent is often unavailable. The accused's intent, however, may be proved by circumstantial evidence. In deciding this issue, you must consider all relevant facts and circumstances. You have the duty to determine the believability of witnesses. In performing this duty, you must consider each witness's intelligence, ability to observe and accurately remember, sincerity and conduct in court, friendships and prejudices. Consider also the extent to which each witness is either supported or contradicted by other evidence, the relationship each witness may have with either side, and how each witness might be affected by the verdict. In weighing discrepancies between witnesses, you should consider whether they resulted from an innocent mistake or a deliberate lie. Take all these matters into account. You should then consider the probability of each witness's testimony and the inclination of the witness to tell the truth. The believability of each witness's testimony should be your guide in evaluating testimony, not the number of witnesses called. These rules apply equally to the testimony given by the accused. You may consider evidence that the accused may have done other acts to determine whether the accused had a motive to commit the offense. You may not consider this evidence for any other purpose, and you may not conclude from this evidence that the accused is a bad person. We're going to strike that. You are further advised, first, that the accused is presumed to be innocent until his guilt is established by legal and competent evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. Second, if there is a reasonable doubt as to the guilt of the accused, that doubt must be resolved in favor of the accused and he must be acquitted. Lastly, the burden of proof to establish the guilt of the accused beyond a reasonable doubt is on the government. The burden never shifts to the accused to establish innocence or to disprove the facts necessary to establish each element of the offense. By a reasonable doubt, a reasonable doubt is intended, not a fanciful, speculative, or ingenious doubt or conjecture, but an honest and actual doubt suggested by the material evidence or lack of it in this case. It is a genuine misgiving caused by insufficiency of proof of guilt. Reasonable doubt is a fair and rational doubt based upon reason and common sense and arising from the state of the evidence. Proof beyond a reasonable doubt is proof that leaves you firmly convinced of the accused's guilt. There are very few things in this world that we know with absolute certainty, and in criminal cases, the law does not require proof that overcomes every possible doubt. If, based on your consideration of the evidence, you are firmly convinced that the accused is guilty of the crime charged, you must find him guilty. If, on the other hand, you think there is a real possibility that he is not guilty, you shall give him the benefit of the doubt and find him not guilty. The rule as to reasonable doubt extends to every element of the offense. Although each particular fact advanced by the prosecution that does not amount to an element need not be established beyond a reasonable doubt. However, if on the whole of the evidence you are satisfied beyond a reasonable doubt of the truth of each and every element of an offense, then you should find the accused guilty of that offense. You must disregard any comment or statement or expression made by me during the course of the trial that might seem to indicate any opinion on my part as to whether the accused is guilty or not guilty, since you alone have the responsibility to make that determination. Each of you must impartially decide whether the accused is guilty or not guilty according to the law that I have given you, evidence admitted in court, and your own conscience. Now, at this time, you're going to hear argument by counsel, which is an exposition of the facts by counsel for both sides as they view them. Bear in mind that the arguments of counsel are not evidence. Argument is made by counsel to assist you in understanding and evaluating the evidence, but you must base the determination of the issues in the case on the evidence as you remember it and apply the law as I instruct you. As the government has the burden of proof, trial counsel may open and close. Trial counsel, you may proceed.
Your Honor, members of the jury, my name is Jessica Lacey. I'm here today on behalf of the prosecution to tell you all about what happened that led us here today. On August 18th, Corporal Winter walked into a live fire training exercise. Corporal Winter disregarded all policies and procedures set forth by the Marine Corps, and Corporal Winter caused the death of Lance Corporal Lye. Now, you heard from Mrs. Winter how when Corporal Winter found her and Lance Corporal Lye together, he was enraged and incensed. She had to hold him back from running after Lance Corporal Lye. He shouted threats. He was angry. Who wouldn't be? You also heard that investigators found in their home, dated 3 months prior to the incident, a journal in which Corporal Winters stated he was so angry he could kill. Further, 2 months prior to the incident, in which Lance Corporal Lye lost his life, Corporal Winters was looking up how to poison someone without them knowing. Then, suddenly, around a month before this live fire training exercise, Corporal Winters was suddenly no longer angry. He was suddenly fine, willing to start anew with Lance Corporal Lye. And yet, you heard from Mrs. Winters that Corporal Winters had begun watching shows such as NCIS, How to Get Away with Murder, Dr. G, a medical examiner show. Now, the law tells us that we must prove beyond a reasonable doubt that Corporal Winters committed this act with the premeditated intent and design to kill. We must also show, and we have, that Corporal Winters walked into that live fire training exercise, an inherently dangerous activity, and evincing a wanton disregard for human life. He made purposeful choices that not only led to the death of Lance Corporal Lye, but put every single member of his platoon in danger. You heard from Sergeant Blank. There were no issues with any of Corporal Winter's equipment. He received all of the minimum necessary equipment that is to be provided to a Marine throughout the course of these exercises. And he made no complaints to Sergeant Blank about any malfunction or disrepair of that equipment. You heard from Major Rabbit, and Major Rabbit told you, which I'm sure you already know, there are strict policies and procedures in place for these exercises for the purpose of safety of Marines. This is so serious that even absent an incident, such as the one that occurred on August 18th, if a Marine is found to have disregarded these policies and procedures, there will be an investigation. There will be consequences. This is how serious and how important it is that each Marine follow these policies. The defense brought to you Corporal Winters' therapist, who testified how Corporal Winters was, of course, emotionally upset, struggled with depression and various other feelings relating to finding his wife cheating on him based on her life. You also heard how Corporal Winter, suddenly, a month before the incident occurred, and conveniently, around the time he began watching shows such as How to Get Away with Murder, he walked into the office and purposefully and intentionally told his therapist that he had no ill will or bad intent or malice towards Corporal Lyon. You also heard the defense put on two of Corporal Winter's buddies and platoon mates, friends, fellow Marines who are with him daily. Now, Lance Corporal Brown provided inconsistent testimony regarding where each of the Marines were located during this live fire training exercise, first telling you that Corporal Winters was slightly behind them, then telling you, oh no, we were all in the line together. You heard from Major Rabbit, and I'm sure you know and are aware, each Marine and the line is supposed to move together as a unit, at order. So how was it that Corporal Winters was suddenly found behind the line, somewhere different than he should have been? We do have high burden of proof. We have met that burden. We have shown you that Corporal Winters walked into a live fire training exercise, blatantly disregarded every bit of training and policy and what type of procedures he was supposed to utilize during this exercise, picked his rifle up, apparently failed to utilize his fully working night vision goggles, aimed while not having a clear line of sight, and pulled the trigger. This was an act that endangered every Marine on the field that day, and coincidentally happened to have killed the one Marine that Corporal Winters had conflict with. I understand that it's difficult to infer intent. This isn't a situation where everything is lined up clearly in front of you. Intent is somewhat more like stepping stones in a river. When you view them individually, they don't look like much. But taken together, you can use each stone to walk one foot in front of the other and cross the rushing water. Now, Corporal Winters' intent to kill Lance Corporal Lyon was formed the moment that he found him in bed with his wife. See, the Marine Corps, it teaches Marines how to focus on winning, how to focus on being the best. The Marine Corps trains Marines to a heightened standard. This is why, since the Marine Corps' inception, November 10, 1775, during the first Continental Congress, the Marine Corps has been held to a higher standard than any other military or operation. Now, Corporal Winters' blatant disregard for the safety of his fellow Marines, that they still want to disregard for human life, it's easy to call that just wanton indifference. But I posit to you that that was part of his intent. Corporal Winters made a decision to kill the man that was sleeping with his wife. Corporal Winters then wrote in his diary about how he was so angry he could kill. Then, Corporal Winters looked up ways in which you can kill someone without them knowing it. How can you poison someone without them knowing? This was deliberate. This was purposeful. Corporal Winters made a plan. Corporal Winters researched his plan. He observed the circumstances around him. And then, when he found a convenient opportunity, one in which he felt he could take advantage of and avoid suspicion, he took advantage. You heard that Corporal Winters was upset after finding out that he had shot by Corporal Lyon. This is understandable. I too would be upset that I knew that I had just fulfilled an act that I had planned and plotted, but could still potentially face consequences for it. Further, you heard how Corporal Winters walked up to a fellow Marine who had suddenly fallen out of nowhere, and despite having not been able to see well enough to establish a clear line of sight, he was somehow able to see that Lance Corporal Lyon was bleeding before Lance Corporal grabbed it. The Marine was standing next to him. The prosecution has met its burden of proof. The prosecution has shown you how Corporal Winters formed the intent to kill. Corporal Winters planned, he plotted, he waited, like a lion stalking his prey. He crept through the jungle, step by step, quietly, avoiding the arousal of suspicion, and when the moment was perfect, right for the taking, he passed. The prosecution asked you to find Corporal Winters guilty of the premeditated murder of Lance Corporal Lyon. Thank you, Your Honor. I'd like to reserve any time I have left for a vote.
Defense counsel, you may present your argument at this time.
Your Honor, defense counsel requests permission to move about the will.
Of course.
Your Honor, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, we understand the great weight and responsibility that you now hold in determining the truth of the events that took place on August 18th, 2024. The prosecution bears the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Corporal Winters committed murder, and they failed to do so for 3 reasons. Corporal Winters did not have a premeditated design to kill. Corporal Winters did not have the intent to inflict great bodily harm, and Corporal Winters did not display a wanton disregard for human life. Because time and time again, the prosecution has asked if anybody had witnessed the shooting that night, and no witness has. The evidence presented here today shows that what happened during this live fire exercise was an unforeseeable, tragic accident. Throughout this trial, you've heard testimony from various witnesses which support a verdict of not guilty under Article 118 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, because the prosecution has not shown any evidence of premeditation, intent, or a wanton disregard of human life. First, you heard from Lieutenant Commander Squid that Corporal Winters had been attending therapy for 2 years, and during their time together, Corporal Winters told Lieutenant Commander Squid that he was upset and sad when he learned of his wife's extramarital affair. I mean, who wouldn't be? However, like a true Marine, Corporal Winters channeled his inner mental toughness and his effective communication skills to overcome this devastating and personal event. Lieutenant Commander Squid testified that a month before this incident took place, Corporal Winters had come to peace with the situation. He was reconciling with his wife, and he was reconciling his friendship with Lance Corporal Lyle. You heard from Sergeant Snoopy that the day before the incident, that Corporal Winters and Lyle were joking around lightheartedly, and there was no tension between the two of them. Sure, when Corporal Winters first learned of his wife's affair, he became angry and wanted to react with violence in that very moment, but he restrained himself. He took some time, and he was able to find a way to come back like any good Marine is trained to do. Corporal Winters' actions were not the actions of a Marine who holds malice in his heart and is planning to kill another fellow Marine. These are the actions of a warfighter who did the hard and deep personal work to grow and get himself through a tough situation, overcome adversity, and make amends with those involved. You also heard from Lance Corporal Brown, who testified that during the exercise, no Marine feared for their life, nor did they feel that they were in danger. And right after the incident occurred, Corporal Winters rushed to the aid of Lance Corporal Lyle. When he realized that Lance Corporal Lyle was bleeding, he immediately called for the corpsman, trying to get the help that he needed. And then the corpsman testified that when he arrived on scene, Corporal Winters was horrified and looked like he wanted to cry. This is not the reaction of a man who wanted to see another Marine dead. This is the reaction of a man who was shocked by what had just happened and was terrified that he was going to lose a fellow Marine. Corporal Winters put all of his faith in the corpsman to be able to save the life of his friend, Lance Corporal Lyle. Lieutenant Commander Squid also testified that Corporal Winters loves the Marine Corps, and he would do anything for the people that he serves with. A man like that, a Marine like that, puts the people he serves with first, making sure to do his best and making sure that he has the back of the Marines around him. This is not a man who carelessly completes the mission assigned to him, but this is a man who takes pride in his work and a man who is destined to accomplish the mission. You also heard from Sergeant Blank, who was in charge of inspecting the weapons on the night of the incident. And he stated that upon inspection, Corporal Winters' weapon was in condition 4 at the start of training, and there were no obstructions in the barrel. Corporal Winters took care in ensuring the condition of his weapon and made sure that it complied with all safety standards. Again, he's not a careless Marine. He's a man who did all he could to ensure the safety of himself and the Marines around him. Being a Marine is no easy job. It requires strength. It requires hard work and bravery. Marines do have inherently dangerous jobs, and that is just a fact. Marines will take pride in their intense training, knowing that while difficult and while intense, they will be equipped to complete any mission that the country may ask of them. However, Corporal Winters followed all weapons safety protocols and took the necessary, reasonable precautions to try and ensure the safety of himself and those Marines around him. He was not intentionally reckless. We trust that you, the jury, will use your wisdom and sound judgment as you consider the evidence laid before you today and weigh the evidence in favor of Corporal Winters. We ask that you find him not guilty under Article 118 of the Uniform Code of Military Justice. Of course, when Corporal Winters learned of his wife's extramarital affair, he became angry and maybe wanted to respond in a way that reflected that. However, what shows his true character, what shows he is a true Marine, and what shows his deep love for the Corps is that Corporal Winters did not act on impulse, nor did he seek out revenge. He channeled his inner warfighter and did the hard work and moved towards making amends with his wife and Lance Corporal Lyle. What happened the night of the live fire exercise was a horrible and devastating accident. But Corporal Winters, a Marine who works endlessly to be the best he can be, both physically and mentally, cannot be held responsible for the death of Lance Corporal Lyle. Thank you.
Thank you, Defense. Trial counsel, you have a rebuttal argument?
Yes.
You may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Members of the jury, the defense would have you believe this was an accident. As you heard from the judge, an accident is a complete offense when there is no negligence on the part of the defendant. The prosecution has proved that the defendant was not only negligent, he was reckless. So either, as the defense would have you believe, Corporal Winter walked out into a training exercise for which he has been taught the necessary procedures, for which he has been given the necessary equipment, and somehow failed to put down his night vision goggles that were in fully working order, that's more than mere negligence. That act alone, to fire a shot without utilizing the equipment you have been given, purposefully or seeing in the dark, and as you heard from two witnesses, it was dark. There was enough ambient light for the night vision goggles to work appropriately, but it was dark. And when he failed to even do something as simple as putting down those goggles and utilizing them, he caused the death of Lance Corporal life. But the prosecution believes he did not fail to simply put down his night vision goggles. As stated previously, you heard from Major Rabbit how it is very serious that all Marines follow these policies and procedures. You heard from Major Rabbit that all equipment is required to be utilized in the course of these training practices. And yet, somehow, coincidentally, Corporal Winter not only failed to utilize his equipment as he is required to do, he also caused the death of a fellow Marine. Now, the defense would have you believe that the smoke and joke talk was all evidence of how Corporal Winter was fine with Lance Corporal life. I find it strange that for someone who apparently no longer carries any ill intent or malice towards the victim, to still be making comments in jest, such as "soon, motherfucker." Now, the defense tells you that Corporal Winters is a Marine's Marine. He would do anything for the people he serves with. Anything except lift his arm about a foot and a half in the air and utilize his night vision goggles, apparently. You heard from the defense that Corporal Winters had a condition for weapon and followed all safety protocols. Well, that's excellent. Great, I'm glad that you followed protocols with your weapon. You failed to follow protocols with your other necessary required equipment. This was all the culmination of Corporal Winters' plan to kill Lance Corporal alive. Corporal Winters saw his opportunity and he took it. And then he fed some bullshit line about how, oh, I just didn't use my night vision goggles that were in fully working order and mounted to my helmet. And contrary to every bit of training I had received, I took a shot without clear line of sight. I don't buy for a penny. And you shouldn't either. We do have a high burden of responsibility as a prosecution. We bear the burden of ensuring that Marines who would do something, such as purposefully take the life of a fellow soldier who trusts them, who relies on them to have their back, do not walk out into the field and put at risk any more Marines. Members of the jury, we ask you to make the right decision today and to prosecute and find Corporal Winter guilty of the crime he committed, which was the premeditated, intentional killing of Lance Corporal alive. Thank you.
Thank you, trial counsel. Members, counsel have referred to instructions that I gave you. If there's any consistency between what counsel has said about the instructions and the instructions which I gave you, you must accept my statement as being correct. Argument by counsel is not evidence. Counsel are not witnesses. If the facts as you remember them differ from the way counsel state the facts, it is your memory of the facts that controls controls. The following procedural rules will apply to your deliberations and must be observed. The influence of superiority in rank will not be employed in any manner in an attempt to control the independence of the members and the exercise of their own personal judgment. Your deliberations should include a full and free discussion of all evidence that has been presented. After you've completed your discussion, then voting on your findings must be accomplished by secret written ballot, and all members of the court are required to vote. If you find the accused guilty of any specification under the charge, then the finding as to the charge must also be guilty. The junior member, Staff Sergeant Franklin, will collect and count the votes. The count will then be checked by the president, who will immediately announce the result of the ballot to the members. The concurrence of at least 3/4 of the members present when the vote is taken is required for any finding of guilty. Since we have 11 members, since we have 8 members, yeah, 8. Since we only have 8 members, but, so a quick little math here. If fewer than 6 members vote for a finding of guilty, then your ballot resulted in a finding of not guilty. As soon as the court has reached its findings and I have examined the findings worksheet, the findings will be announced by the president in the presence of all parties. As an aid in putting your findings in proper form and making a proper announcement of the findings, you may use Appellate Exhibit 1, which is the findings worksheet, which I'm holding up now, which the bailiff may now hand to the president. As indicated on the findings worksheet, the first portion will be used if the accused is completely acquitted of the charge and specification. The second part will be used if the accused is convicted of the offenses. Once you have finished filling in what is applicable, please line out or cross out everything that is not applicable so that when I check your findings, I can ensure that they are in proper form. Are there any questions about the findings worksheet? Do counsel object to the instructions given or request additional instructions?
No, Your Honor.
Yes.
No, Your Honor.
The court is now closed for deliberations.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
I wanted to, well, we were gonna check. Just get like trust.
I'm sorry, I said soldiers, guys. I'm doing my best. I'm not a screamer. I think I did.
I was surprised that she didn't run that.
Yeah, we didn't. Right. The MDG is kind of right. Yeah, literally just the specific required to discuss who's wearing.
Hey, we did good. That was a yeah, that was a great one.
The actions are star
You did it right. That's me.
You look really
So the prosecution does get this money.
Those five, Marie. I know
I wish we had one more time. Literally, they're arguing now for us on stuff they didn't bring up.
This court martial is called back to order. All parties are present and the court recess are again present.
Your Honor, we're missing one trial counsel.
It's all right, we can, is he coming in or? He or she? We can always, you'll find the trial counsel fungible. We can always proceed without one, but. over here. All right, this court is called back to order. Order, all parties are again present. We're present in the court, last recess. Captain, has the court reached findings?
Yes, Your Honor.
Are the findings reflected on the findings worksheet?
Yes, Your Honor.
Please fold the worksheet and give it to the bailiff so that I may examine it. I have reviewed the findings worksheet and the findings appear to be in proper form. Bailiff, please return the findings worksheet to the president. Accused defense counsel, please rise. If the president can please announce the findings of the court.
The charge and specification thereunder, not guilty.
Members, thank you for your attendance and service. This court martial is now adjourned.
All right, good job, guys. That was great. Great job. Hey, great close yard. Great job. Great close. You have done it? You did make some good points at the end. That's what it wasn't presented during the actual. It's put outside the common area. Great work. Great work.
Never done one more.
Hey, listen.